Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when this finds you. Hope you're having a great day. And I'm going to talk about some things today based on what's going on in society and how it relates to history as well. If you could do me a favor, hit the like button and share the video. That'd be greatly appreciated. And I know there are a lot of people who say we shouldn't worry about skin color, race, and I totally agree. However, color and race is the way most of society understands things because of programming and conditioning. And if you look around at most of your closest friends and associates, more than likely they share the same skin color, race, or ethnicity as you. Why don't they share the same nationality? If you look around your neighborhood, most of the people in that neighborhood share the same skin color, race, or ethnicity as you. If you worship on a regular basis or attend church services, most of the people in that church share the same race, color, or ethnicity. Now, Sunday is actually considered the most segregated day in this country. And why is that? So, I talk about things from a racial perspective because that's what most people understand. If you want to talk about people from a biblical or tribal perspective, I can have that conversation as well. But those two topics are not on the tip of everybody's mind. People who don't want to address things from a racial perspective are deluding themselves. They normally don't like to talk about it because it's a demon they don't want to cross. Now, I'm going to talk in this video about a topic that I've only talked about with my wife and my closest friend. And I think this is very important for people to understand some of the things going on, and I hope you do as well. And as I stated, if you do, please share with people that you think may benefit from it. Now, Samuel Adams, Samuel Adams, one of the founders, he had some things to say, and I'm going to pull a couple of things that he said for you. The first one he said is, if ever time should come when vain and aspiring men shall possess the highest seats in government, our country will stand in need of its experienced patriots to prevent its ruin. And he also said, no people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can any be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. On the contrary, when people are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders. Close quote. Now, I'm at a point in my life where I don't care about sports. I'll catch a headline every now and then. Matter of fact, last night I caught the last 8 minutes of the University of Texas Miami game and just watched University of Texas just totally fall apart in those 8 minutes. And I'm University of Youth alum, so we were looking for U of H to make it to the championship, but it is what it is. Now, the sport I will watch when I can is a track and field. Now, I don't care about entertainment. Speaking of entertainment, have you noticed how many police or law enforcement type shows are on television now? On Monday, you have NCIS and NCIS Hawaii. On Tuesday, you have 3 versions of FBI. On Wednesday, you have the most crooked cop show out of all of them, Chicago PD. On Thursday, you have 3 versions of Law and Order. And I think there's a CSI on Thursday as well. On Friday, you have SWAT and Blue Bloods. On Sunday, you have Equalizer East New York and NCIS Los Angeles. And I know Equalizer is not a cop show per se, but she's working with the police. So in saying that, I guess I could also add Magnum PI to the Sunday lineup as well. Now, if you have access to the channel Ion, every day of the week except Tuesday, you have a marathon of cop shows. On Tuesday, it's the Chicago Fire. Now, what many people don't realize is these shows are actually conditioning us to voluntarily give up our rights to bring criminals to justice. They'll make statements like, could you give us a DNA sample so we can exclude you? Even if you haven't committed a crime, you are treated like a criminal. In this country, you are guilty until you prove that you are innocent. Just pay attention to statements like these going forward. This is entertainment that is subconsciously programming you to surrender your rights. Now, you can take a look at YouTube and see all of these incidents where law enforcement has violated people's rights, only to find out later that they were wrong. Whereas police used to violate Black and Latino rights mainly, they are violating everybody now. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some great law enforcement officers out there, but the ones with no integrity make all of them look bad. That's not good for an industry like that one. And see, one of the best ways to immobilize people is to confuse them. You see, right now, many people are confused about who the true enemies of freedom are. And because of propaganda, lots of folks think the enemies of freedom are the ones who reject what comes out of the mainstream. And for centuries, our Black ancestors complained about what the system had done to them. And today, Black people run to the system for everything. It just doesn't make common sense. My wife always tells me her mother's favorite phrase was, you can have all the book sense in the world and not a lick of common sense. And right today, we see a whole lot of people with credentials and book smarts but no basic understanding of daily living. That's my nice way of saying they lack common sense. And see, what we're dealing with now is being done by the same group of people who have been behind every atrocity that has happened historically around the world. Find out who's been kicked out of 138 countries around the world historically. And see, many Christians don't want to believe it, but the people they are taught to support no matter what are the ones behind everything that's going on. And I mean everything bad. Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9, and John 8:44 gives you a great indicator. And I remember somebody pointed that out to a pastor buddy of mine some years ago, and he tried to exclude it and said, well, that wasn't meant for today. That was back then. And, I didn't want to embarrass him in front of everybody, but my thoughts are, if the last book of the Bible is not relevant today, why are you standing in the pulpit? Why do you have a church? Why did you go to seminary? But those books of the Bible, those verses, Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9, John 8:44 give you a great indicator. You see, as long as things were done to only one group of people who were considered less than human, who were considered animals, who were considered beasts, who were taught to be feared by everyone around the world, oppression was okay. Now, I know that some folks of other colors, races, ethnicities, thought oppression was wrong and they fought against it. But as a general rule, one class of people were considered the dregs of society. And I was asked why I stay on the pulpit the way I do. Well, let me read you something from renowned evangelist Charles Finney. If there is a decay of conscience, the pulpit is responsible. And Charles Finney, I believe, was 18th or 19th century. I don't remember exactly. But he said the pulpit is responsible. If the public press lacks moral discernment, the pulpit is responsible for it. If the church is degenerate and worldly, the pulpit is responsible for it. If the world loses its interest in Christianity, the pulpit is responsible for it. If Satan rules in our halls of legislation, the pulpit is responsible for it. If our politics become so corrupt that the very foundations of our government are ready to fall away, the pulpit is responsible for it. Close quote. Now, I was asked why I stay on the pulpit so much, but Charles Finney just cut right to the core. You see, black people had to deal with Jim Crow. Black people had to deal with redlining. Gentrification destroys black communities all over this country. And now the phrase coming out of the World Economic Forum is you will own nothing and be happy. It didn't say black folks, it said you. Why do you think the virtual and meta universe are being promoted? They will give you the illusion that you have something, but it won't be anything tangible. Slavery was heavily done to blacks and whites. Let's see, the difference was whites could easily disappear when they ran away because they could assimilate by skin color. Whites also could not withstand the back-breaking work in the hot sun. And see, now the plan is to enslave everyone. Voting was denied to blacks. I mean, you talk about food scraps. You know, we're hearing a lot about food scarcity right now. Look at all of the plants that have gone up in flames. You know, egg plant, chicken plant, beef plant. I think not too long ago I saw a farm caught on fire or something. I mean, slaves, the black slaves were fed the worst parts of the animals. How do you think we as black people started eating the feet of pigs, the intestines of pigs, the tails of cattle? Now the elites are promoting eating insects for your daily protein for everybody except themselves. Medical experimentation was first tried on black women by doing operations on them without anesthesia because they said black women had a high tolerance for pain. They then gave us, our black men, the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. In the last 3 years, they gave everybody the virus and the vaccine, and they're going to give you a new pandemic in exactly 2 years from this March 2023. So exactly 2 years. If it doesn't show up, you know, I apologize, but all indicators are showing that's when they're going to release it again. They would sterilize black men and women so they couldn't reproduce children. And see, this wasn't only done in America, it was also done in South Africa. What do you think abortion is? Who do you think abortion was really targeted to? And see, you know, we hear about Margaret Sanger in the eugenics movement, but you don't hear about our black leaders that were promoting it right along with her. Especially our famed civil rights leader, Martin Luther King, who received an award from Planned Parenthood and told Planned Parenthood in 1966 when he received this award with his speech that they were doing great work determining who gets to live and who doesn't. But that's your leader that the system told you to look up to. And see, now everybody around the world is being sterilized by those people who the world looks up to as philanthropists. We've been conditioned that poison is medicine. The Underground Railroad was created to move toward freedom. And right now, cryptocurrency has become the new black market economy. And separate but equal for blacks has become the elite versus the rest of us. Segregation for blacks has become segregation for elites versus everybody else. And you know, back in the day, black people would be the first ones fired from a job. You know, that was a phrase, you know, last hired, first fired. That was normally something said about black people. Now companies all over the country are firing people regardless of your skin color. You know, as I stated, abortion has always been a solution to eliminate black babies from the earth. This goes all the way back to Pharaoh, when he told the midwives if a Hebrew male baby was born, they were supposed to kill it. Blacks would be in prison for moving around in public without permission. Well, the last 3 years, the movements of the people were severely restricted, and in 2024, Europe will be implementing 15-minute cities. What's a 15-minute city? These cities will be created, and the people will only be allowed to travel no further than 15 minutes outside of their homes. And if you think that that's 15 minutes driving, you better think again. If you want to travel outside of your 15-minute encampment, you will have to get government permission. If you go over your government allotment, then you will start being fined. And so If you think it's only going to happen in Europe, you better think again. You know, police brutality used to be mainly against blacks and Latinos. Now they violating everybody. You know, I remember when Rodney King was beat, you know, all them other folks. Why was he running? Why was he running? You know, he deserved that beating. And them cops got off. You know, Christianity was imposed on blacks, and now it's a worldwide phenomenon among all races under many different names. And so you're going to have to go and study the doctrine of discovery put in place by the papal bulls, the popes, starting back in the year 1095. And I'm going to actually read you a few of those. In 1095, the papal bull said that the land, whatever lands were not Christian, they were supposed to take those lands and convert the people to Christianity. And see, the reason they wanted to force people into Christianity was because our black ancestors followed the Bible, but what they followed was called the way, W-A-Y. And I might do another video on the way and show you, pull scripture from the Bible and show you where it's actually the way, and it's actually capitalized. But, you know, some things just get overlooked by our so-called spiritual leaders. And see, the way was in direct opposition to Christianity. The way is what the popes wanted to destroy. The Pope said that Christianity reigned supreme above everything else. And see, those papal bulls said all non-Christians were subhuman and uncivilized. What has history taught everybody about black people? Now, I'm not going to say all black people, because the descendants of Ham don't get treated like the descendants of Shem. See, both of those were black people, but the descendants of Shem are the ones who get treated the worst when we're talking about black people. And the descendants of Shem are mostly who your black Americans are. Now, they are all parts of the world, but most of your descendants of Shem is somewhere in the Western Hemisphere. And see, that's what history taught you. Black followers of the way were considered subhuman and uncivilized, and that's why they forced them into slavery. Yes, the Catholic Church were major players in slavery, and they tried to hide it. And say, like I said, these papal bulls started in the year 1095 by Pope Urban II. And it gave kings and princes of Europe the right to discover where did Christopher Columbus come from, or claim all non-Christian lands. Now, if our Protestant fathers were breaking away from the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church was practicing Christianity, why are we practicing Christianity, since that is what we were supposed to be breaking away from? And see, I don't even capitalize the word Christianity anymore. In the year 1205, Pope Innocent III issued a papal bull that said Jews were forbidden to eat with Christians or own Christian slaves. Now, see, you have to understand, Jews back then are not the same people we look at as Jews today, that the world recognizes today. Jews back then were followers of the way. And now that you're seeing the original Jews get back to the teachers of the way, now they're talking about we're reverse racist. But I don't capitalize it anymore. In 1218, Pope Honorius III issued a papal bull, and it stated that Jews were to wear clothing to distinguish themselves and pay the tithe to local churches. Why has everybody always been against the original Jews, the original Hebrews? See, because Abraham was the first person the Bible designated as Hebrew. So that means Abraham's descendants became Hebrew. And see, Jew wasn't even a word until 1775 anyway. So those black descendants of Shem were not called Jews. And see, if you do any type of research, they'll tell you a Jew and an Israelite are not the same people. But see, now your Christian churches tell you Jews are the biblical people, especially if they don't want the seminary. In the year 1245, Pope Innocent IV released a papal bull that told Mongolians they had to convert to Christianity. In 1428, Pope Martin V issued a papal bull that authorized King Alfonso V of Portugal to conquer Saracens and pagans and make them servants of perpetual servitude. In 1452, Pope Nicholas V issued a papal bull that stated, "We grant you, kings of Spain and Portugal, by these present documents, with our apostolic authority, full and free permission to invade, search out, capture, and subjugate the Saracens and pagans and any other unbelievers and enemies of Christ, wherever they may be, as well as their kingdoms, duchies, counties, principalities, and other property, and to reduce their persons into perpetual servitude." The Pope's decree and also orders the king to make all Muslims into perpetual slaves. Now see, that's all I'm going to read. I'm going to stop with the papal bulls because there's a lot more of them, all the way up to mid or late 1800s. But I didn't want to bore you with all of them. But we can see how everything that started centuries ago has come back full circle. You see, before colonizers, known as people stealers or slavers, came to Africa, the black Hebrew tribes followed something called the way, as I stated. Those Gentiles gave our ancestors Christianity, taking them away from the way, took them away from being followers of the way. You heard me mention on a previous video how they created a slave Bible, back in the 1800s, I believe. See, the Gentiles had nothing in the way of anything biblical, and now they control and have given the entire world Christianity, and they brag about it all the time. We have over 1 billion Christians in the world. Well, if we got that many Christians in the world, why is the world in the state it's in? If what we're doing is godly and biblical. Since Christianity is the dominant religion of the world, why is the world in the state it's in? Goes back to what Charles Finney said. See, I even saw a video the other day from a doctoral student in Old Testament biblical studies who said the book of Jasher is not credible. And see, that didn't even surprise me, because the Gentiles decided what they wanted in the Bible and what they didn't. Now, it's amazing that this doctoral student said Jasher is not credible, but the Bible mentions the book of Jasher on more than one occasion. And see, one of the main reasons they changed the Bible to conform to the narrative was to hide what their ancestors had done and what those original 12 tribes had done. See, you've heard me talk about Jasher and the Maccabees. See, Jasher tell you how strong the sons of Jacob were. And they always had the smaller numbers. But even with the smaller numbers, every other tribe was scared of them. They feared them. See, they wanted to hide the identity of the tribes, the true color and identity of the tribes. And then they whitewashed the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I mean, anything you look at today that's a depiction or rendering that they give you of anybody Hebrew, the Messiah included, Moses included, all of them whitewashed. But you get over there in those catacombs of the Vatican and look at some of those paintings over in Russia, and they'll show you what color the tribes were. They'll show you what color the Messiah was. And see, these Gentiles wanted to hide what the 12 tribes had done in defense of what Esau's descendants and Japheth's descendants and Ham's descendants were trying to consistently do to them. You see, you think about this. Back during the Reagan years, Ronald Reagan, and when George Bush was at VP and Oliver North was on trial. Crack was placed in black neighborhoods, and now opioids have been placed in white neighborhoods. They're talking about the central banking digital currencies to control everybody's economics. Blacks were hired out through something called the convict leasing program. But see, the Federal Reserve is not supposed to have the ability to coin money. That duty belongs to Congress and Congress only. Now, do you know who is fighting on your behalf to stop central bank digital currencies? Ted Cruz here in Texas and Ron DeSantis down in Florida. Two of the most hated politicians, especially among black folks. Now, I'm not saying DeSantis and Cruz are the faces of freedom, but as a whole, we as black people have no concept of what freedom should look like. And on that particular area, DeSantis and Cruz are fighting for your freedom. And see, sadly, most of society has no concept of what freedom should look like. Let me let you in on a little secret, especially for those who call yourself Christian. When the new financial system takes place, that is the last money system we will ever know in our lifetime. It's a slavery system. It's a slavery economic system. Now, if you really want to get an idea what this could possibly look like, because I don't know, I don't have the answers. I don't have all the answers. I've been doing a lot of studying and research on it. But some years ago, you've heard of the George Orwell book 1984. And I know a lot of people in society don't like to read now. So if you don't want to read the book 1984, and you have a Prime account on Amazon, stream the movie 1984. And see, that's why I said to watch, because most people don't want to read. Now, if you watch that, you're going to see that a lot of the mechanisms have been put in place. The planks have already been put in place. You got big screen TVs in your house. They're going to be able to access. They already told you that behind the scenes, other people can access and turn your cameras on your computer screens. Well, your TV is connected to the internet now. So if they can turn on your monitor on your computer with the camera lens, what do you think your TV screen is? Your entire TV is a camera. The Jetsons cartoon came out in, I believe, the first time in 1962. Well, guess what the Jetsons were doing in 1962? Zoom conferences. So it's going to be hard to have any type of relations, if you get what I'm saying, if the government can turn on your television anytime it wants to. And you're going to have to praise and worship government if you want sustainability. See, y'all so busy caught up in entertainment and sports, your freedom and your livelihoods are being stripped right from under you, and you don't even see it because you think the people out there trying to warn you are the problem. No, the people out there trying to steal your freedoms are the problem. You will own nothing and be happy. Right today we see all of these mechanisms put in place to censor speech, free speech, just like they censored speech for blacks. And see, the system was doing everything it could to destroy the black family. And today, the system is doing everything it can to destroy the family units of everybody. Remember when we heard the see something, say something? You're going to see him again. Trust me. That's why he won't go away. They were encouraging you to turn your own family members in for not bowing to government dictates. Just like the slave master would give black tattletales a few scraps to tell on any plans of escape. That's all see something, say something is. Let us know of the people who are thinking about freedom, who are not conforming, who are not complying, who are not falling in line, who's not walking around bad, who's not a sheep. You see, freedom is like oxygen. You don't miss it until you don't have it. The secret of happiness is freedom. You can't have peace if you're not free. And that's why stress prevails in this society. You are the only person that can free yourself because you have to control your mind. See, most slaves have given up their minds to someone else. Now, Jim Morrison said this: the most important kind of freedom is to be what you really are. You trade in your reality for a role. You give up your ability to feel, and in exchange, put on a mask. End quote. You see, here's something else Jim Morrison said before we'll move on. People are afraid of themselves, of their own reality, their feelings most of all. People talk about how great love is, but that's BS. Yeah, he actually said the word. Love hurts. Feelings are disturbing. People are taught that pain is evil and dangerous. How can they deal with love if they're afraid to feel? Pain is meant to wake us up. People try to hide their pain, but they're wrong. Pain is something to carry, like a radio. You feel your strength in the experience of pain. It's all in how you carry it. That's what matters. Pain is a feeling. Your feelings are a part of you, your own reality. If you feel ashamed of them and hide them, you're letting society destroy your reality. You should stand up for your right to feel your pain. That's end quote. And read something from Bob Marley. Bob Marley said, better to die fighting for freedom than be a prisoner all the days of your life. And see, a lot of people not willing to stand up in the midst of their pain and fight for their freedom. They would just rather continue to feel the pain. And it's like, the story I heard years ago about a guy walking down the street and he heard a dog moaning. And that the more he walked, the closer the sound got, the louder the sound got. So he saw a guy sitting in a rocking chair on his porch. And he looked up under the porch and there was the guy's dog under the porch, sitting and moaning. And so hey, partner, what's wrong with your dog? And the guy never stopped rocking in the chair. Said, oh, he's just sitting on a nail. And said, well, why won't he get up off of it? And the guy said, because it's not hurting him bad enough. And that's where the great majority of society is right now. It ain't hurting you bad enough yet. And the thing that troubles me is I think by the time it starts hurting you too much, it's going to be too late. Now, LBJ said this, and some of you may have heard this. If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. End quote. LBJ told you over 50 years ago what plans the government had for white people too, but nobody listened. Now, look at where we are today. The pockets of white America have also been picked. And see, black America thinks Republicans did it. White America thinks Democrats did it. And I'm over here like both of them did it. I'll talk to you later. Don't forget the book is available. But hey, what do I know at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. We'll talk with you later.